Okay, so getting back to where we were, so we figured out A, B, and C. So to calculate payback period, we're gonna basically payback period is equal to A plus B over C. Okay, so let me get rid of this, and so the payback period we're gonna say is equal to. Keep your eye on this, right? Equal to A plus, and then I'm gonna use parentheses, right? So there's my open parent, and then plus B, which is this, divided by C, and then I'm going to close my parentheses. So there's the formula and hit that. And so in this instance, you're going to see that the payback period is 2.5 years. So for our 3-year, um, 3-year, we're looking at 2.5 years. For our 3-year or 6-year, it doesn't really matter. In this, when we use this particular method, it doesn't matter whether we're using a 3-year or a 6-year cutoff period because it's the same payback period, right? It's still going to be A divided by the absolute value of A, which is the year 2, because this is the year of the last negative cumulative cash flow, right? Plus the absolute value of that cumulative cash flow at the end of period A, which is B, divided by the cash flow in the year after period A, which is year 3. So this is the cash flow. So that's how you calculate this one, payback period. Okay, so let's look at the next example. You'll notice differences between the methods, whether it's the simple method or the better method of payback period. You will notice a difference in what your end result is for your calculation when you look at projects B, C, and D because they have different cash flows. And the problem with this method is that you annualize the cash flow. And so you'll recognize that very quickly when you work these out. Okay, so let's look at the discounted payback period. So when we look at our next slide, this is called discounted cash flow. So this isn't really its own method. This is a piece of the next 3 methods, right? And it says on the bottom, the discounted present value is used in the next 3 capital budgeting methods. So I'm going to show you how to calculate the future value divided by 1 plus K over N, where K is the discount rate and N is the number of periods, right? So when we look at discounted payback period, we're going to use that right here in step 1. And then we're going to do what we just did when we do net present value. Look right here. Future value divided by 1 plus the discount rate to the N or whatever to the T, right? The time periods. And so it's the same thing. We're just using this. And this might look, the formula might look like it's daunting, but it's really the same thing. And we'll look at that. And when you do internal rate of return is exactly the same thing as net present value, except you set the formula equal to 0 and you solve for the discount rate. And that's the only difference. So if you can do discounted payback period, you should be able to do net present value very easily. And you should be able to, if you can do net present value, you can do internal rate of return. It's just a matter of solving, it's doing a little algebra. So, but I'm not gonna have you calculate IRR. I'm only gonna have you do net present value. So let's start with discounted cash flow. And we're gonna use this to figure out our discounted payback period. Okay, so again, let's look at problem A or project A, and we're going to calculate the discounted payback period with a 5% discount rate, a 10% discount rate, and a 20% discount rate. So let's start by putting our years here. I'm just going to use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 this time, and you'll see why in a minute. So this is the year, right? So we'll do that. And the first thing that I want to do to figure out our discounted cash rate. So the first thing I want to do is I want to bring down the nominal value, and I'll put the nominal, right? I'll put, oops, NOM, nominal value. And then we're going to call this the present value, right? Or I'm sorry, we're going to call this the future value. And so this is going to be equal to, I'm going to copy the cash flows, copy, and I'm going to paste them here so I know what I'm working with. So year one, my cash flow is 4,000, etc., right? And so this is the nominal. I should put CF for cash flow. Okay. That's the first thing I'm going to do. Now I'm going to start working on my formula. I'm going to start working on my formula, but first I need to move this down just a little bit because, let me just move it down a couple spaces. Because I also want to say, if I'm looking at my formula, right, FV over 1 plus K over N, okay? That's what I'm trying to get to. Well, this is FV, so this is going to be my numerator. I'm just going to write that down so I know what I'm doing. Okay, so now I'm going to do 1 plus K. Well, if you remember from the formula, K is the discount rate. And in this case, we want to say K is 5%. So 1 plus 5% is the same as 1.05, right? That's 105%. So that's the discount rate I'll be using in this case. So I'm going to do those the first couple cells, and I'm going to drag that down to copy it to the rest. N is simply the year, right? So this is also N. I'm going to put that right there. Or actually, let me move the year up. And I'll put N here. So 1 plus K to the nth power. This is how you do powers in Excel. You use this little squiggly, or that little arrow up thing, the N. So that's what this column is going to be. And this is also the denominator, right? Denominator. Oops. Let me put that over here where it belongs. Make that a little bit wider. So 1 plus K to the N. So now I'm going to make this equal to, well, here's 1 plus K. So it equals 1 plus K, the little up thing, to the N. Here's N. And then I'm going to hit tab. So that's the formula. See that up here? I hit tab. I'm going to do the same thing here, equals my 1 plus K column, that thing to the N. In this case, N is 2. Hit tab. And then now I've told Excel what I want it to do, so I'm going to grab the corner and drag it down. So this is the denominator in each case. Okay? So now we can calculate, if we look at our, we've got FV and we've got the denominator, we can calculate the discounted present value. Okay? So I'm going to call this column, oops, I'm going to call this column DPV, discounted present value. So this is going to be equal to the numerator divided by the denominator. And here it's equal to the numerator divided by the denominator. And now I've told Excel what I want it to do in a couple of cases. I'm going to just drag it down. So this is the discounted present value for each of the years. And what this means is $4,000 1 year from today is only worth $3,809 now. Okay, using at a 5% discount rate. It also means $4,000 2 years from today is equal to $3,628 today. Similarly, right? $4,000 3 years from now is equal to $3,455 today. $4,000 6 years from now is equal to only less than $3,000 today. So that's kind of the way that you look at this. The discount rate really allows you to look at the time value of money, but it also gives you the ability to factor in some amount of risk on future cash flows, right? Maybe you don't. So that's why sometimes you look at higher discount rates when you're doing these. All right, so now that we've figured this out, we're going to go back to figuring out we're going to break our, we're going to use our years again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we're going to put our, we're doing the exact same thing that we did before payback period. So we're going to start with the initial cost, right? And in year 1, we had our initial cost that was equal to this times -1, right? Because we want it to be negative cash outlay. And then what do we have for our next column? We had our beginning. I'm just going to copy these 3 columns because that's what we're doing. Same thing. And I'm going to hit paste. So now I've got beginning cash flow for the year and our ending or cumulative cash flow. And in this case, oops, let me move these down. Let me move these up, I mean. There we go. So our beginning is the negative cash outlay for the project cost. And then our cash flow for year 1 is not the nominal value, not the FV, but it's the DPV. So this is going to be equal to these. So I'm just going to copy these amounts, Control C, and I'm going to put them right here because that's where they go. Oops. And when I did that, it didn't like it because, let me go back. So I'm going to copy those. I'm going to do a paste special. I'm going to paste just the values. I only want the values. I don't want the formulas. I just want those numbers. Okay, and then we can make those go down a little bit. I'm only interested in the dollar amounts, right? Okay. So then our ending cumulative cash flow then is equal to our beginning plus our cash flow during the year. We get our cumulative cash flow. That starts us at the beginning of year 2, so I'm going to set that cell equal to the ending cash flow. And then this again is going to be equal to the beginning for year 2 plus the cash flow in year 2. And we have that, right? Again, this cell equals the ending cash flow. And then now I have 2 instances here of what I wanted it to be. Don't use this one because this was different. Year 1 was different. We started with our project cost. But year 2 and 3 are the same in terms of the logic. We just carried this forward, carry that down here. So let's drag that down. And then the logic here is the same because we just added our beginning and our cash flow for the year to get this, our beginning and our cash flow. So the logic's the same. We've told Excel a couple of instances what we want it to do. We're going to drag it down. Boom. So in this case, we're looking for A, we're looking for B, and we're looking for C to determine what our payback period is, right? And in this case, again, A is going to be year 2 because this is the last year with a negative cumulative cash flow at the end of the year, right? So A is going to be equal to 2, right? I should not make that dollars. That should be a general number. B is going to be equal to the absolute value of the cumulative cash flow in the period A. We know A is 2. This is the ending cumulative cash flow. And we want the absolute value of that. So we're going to say equals that. C is the cash flow for the year after period A, or for the period after period A, which is period 3. The cash flow there is that. So we're going to say C is equal to this. And therefore, hold on.